This is VORUNA Prime, or as I like to refer to her, the murder puppy of Warframe. She is the embodiment of ferocity and savageness in this game. And after, reaping the benefits of a new Warframe coming out, I've got a crap ton of plat. We're going to be showing you not one, not two, but 3 builds in this video. But before we get to those builds, let's go over her abilities and her passive so we know what we're doing when it comes to these builds. Now, first things first, her passive. Her passive is basically a wolf pack that consists of 4 different effects that you can apply by holding down the corresponding ability button. Her first effect or pack member, we're going to say pack members for now. First pack member is Dinar, who increases her parkour speed by 50% when activated. So as you can see here, you bullet jump faster, you're faster, things like that. Her second passive is known as Raksh, and basically it gives you status immunity, and that means that any new negative status effects that are casted towards you cannot be applied. So you're basically just immune to status effects. So good for survivability. Her third passive, Liketh, gives you 100% melee heavy attack efficiency. So as you can see here, heavy attacks occur faster compared to when it's not activated. So yeah, her fourth and final passive is known as Ulfrun, and Ulfrun literally gives you an entire extra life. So if you die, Ulfrun will take your place and you won't die. So if you're being attacked and you die, then you won't actually die because Ulfrun will take your place and then go on to cooldown before it can be reactivated. Let me not die. Holy. Yeah, I need to pause these guys again. There we go. So yeah, that's pretty much all of her passives. They all have pretty interesting effects, can be used for different things, and that is awesome. We're going to get into the good stuff, which is the abilities. As always, we got 4 abilities, and her first ability is known as Shroud of Dinar. Basically, you can go invisible. But there's something special about this. When you go uninvisible, you get bonus melee status chance, critical damage, and it force applies a slash status effect. So you can see here, force applies slash, ignore the other effects. That's from my abilities, my mods on this melee weapon. But yes, it force applies slash status effects. Now the status effects that you can get from this ability when you attack and you go uninvisible are duration based, but you can extend the duration of the abilities once while you kill an enemy. So let's say your duration for the melee buffs is 5. If you kill an enemy, you can increase it more, but only 1 time per cast. Now there is an augment mod for this ability. It is known as Prey of Dinar, and I will explain it after we go over the second ability because they tie in together. Now her second ability is actually the money maker. This is the ability that causes all the big damage and helps you the most when it comes to killing enemy, and it's known as Fangs of Raksh. Basically what you do is you activate the ability, and look at that, it adds 5 different status effects at 10 stacks each. And then when you kill the enemy that has the status effects like this, it spreads the status effects to nearby enemies. Now there are some statuses that can't be applied, such as Void, Tau, Stagger, and Knockdown, coupled with a few others that I'm going to put on the screen right here. So yeah, and the ability spread, when you kill an enemy and the status effects spread to nearby enemies, it is scalable via range. So if you put range mods on, then it will increase the range in which the abilities can spread to another enemy. So yes, now on to that augment that I was talking about for the first ability. It is known as Prey of Dinar, and basically as it reads, it increases an enemy's damage vulnerability by 50% using Fang of Raksh, and using Fang of Raksh on that enemy increases its spread radius by 150% when it's maxed, because it's maxed right here. So basically what you do, you do this, and then it highlights an enemy, and then use Fangs of Raksh on it, kill the enemy, and bam, it increases the radius like crazy, and it stretches all the way over here. 150% increase in radius, and we can all see how that would be useful. That's pretty much a status nuke, and you're status priming every enemy that is, affected by these status effects. Let's see it again. Bam, every enemy around here is affected by those statuses. So overall, it's a highly useful and highly versatile ability that, gives great nuke potential for VORUNA. Now, on to her third ability, which is pretty simple to explain. Now, her third ability is known as Lycith's Hunt, and basically, if you kill an enemy with a melee attack, it drops a health orb, and if you kill an enemy with a headshot, it gives you an energy orb. Well, I instantly picked that up, but you get the point. Melee kill equals health, headshot kill equals energy. But this ability can be extended if you kill an enemy with 5 or more status effects. So every time you get a kill on an enemy with 5 or more status effects, it extends the ability's duration. Look at that. Duration is extended, and we're all the way up to 50 seconds. So yes, very useful ability, and it can work really well with Equilibrium, and you will see that in these builds because this ability is incredibly useful. Now for her fourth and final ability, it is known as Ulfrun's Descent, and basically this is where you forgot to spawn the enemies. This is where it gets the title Murder Puppy. She goes on all fours, and you get these 5 charges beneath your reticle, and you use the one to charge at an enemy and deal slash damage towards them. But if you kill that enemy with the slashes, it increases the status of this pseudo exalted weapon. Now I can't display it because there's no mods on this warframe, but basically every time you kill an enemy, the stats of the fourth ability are increased. So melee damage is increased by 200%, critical chance is increased by 5%, and critical damage is increased by 0.1%. So that means that if you kill 4 enemies with this ability, then you have 900% damage because you start off with an initial 100%. You have a max of 42.5% critical chance because you start off with 20% critical chance, and you have a max of 1.95 times critical damage because you start off with 1.5 times critical damage. Yeah, pretty powerful ability, and it can scale to great numbers. Now there is an augment mod for this ability that is known as Ulfrun's Endurance, where basically if an enemy dies from bleed within 20 meters of VORUNA while she's in this mode, it will refill the charges. So basically, as long as you're killing enemies while you're in this mode, you can infinitely dash at them without worrying about anything. So yeah, pretty cool, and that's pretty much all of the abilities for VORUNA explained as much as you need them to be. Now that we're done with the abilities, let's get right into the 3 builds that I presented to you at the beginning of the video. So the first 2 builds are going to be weapon platform builds. That means that they mix the abilities of the warframe alongside your weapons to deal maximum damage. It differs from a warframe abilities based build where you're mainly using the warframe's abilities, you're not really focusing on weapons. This first build is going to be specifically for melee weapons, a melee weapon platform build, because that's pretty much what you can build VORUNA as, a melee weapon platform. And with this build is going to specialize in one particular ability. You're going to have to subsume an ability onto this. I know it could be annoying, but it is a really good ability that helps a lot with this build. And that ability is known as Theros Strike, and it is from Styanak. Now, the reason that we want to use this ability is because there's an augment mod known as Theros' Lethality. And this augment mod gives you 100% critical damage to your weapons when you use Theros Strike. Coupled along with Theros Strike itself, which armor strips enemies, this can be really powerful in the hands of a good player with a good melee weapon and a good build. And this right here is the build that we're going to be using. Now we have corrosive protection to take away armor. We have a decent amount of range just so the status effects can spread to other enemies, and so Theros Strike can hit a decent amount of enemies when activated. Then we have strength, so then we can add up this critical damage bonus up to 213%, as well as reaching 100% armor strip with this ability, which will make enemies, take more damage, obviously. And we also have a flow, so we have energy, and we have equilibrium, which we already talked about, works really well with her third ability to give you a nice energy synergy. Basically, you know, you get a lot of energy, you get a lot of health. Plus we have these mods in particular, which are fast deflection and fortitude, coupled alongside arcane aegis or aegis, and basically that is just for survivability, so you don't have to be constantly invisible or something. So as long as you have these and you're playing it smart, you know, you're not just running into a group of enemies without paying attention to your health, you're going to be able to survive relatively easily. And if you have her second passive, which we talked about, it gives you status resistance. It'll make it easier for you to survive against toxin status effects, you know, all those status effects that can one-shot you, essentially going right past your shield. And then last but not least, we have arcane impetus, which gives you ability efficiency as well as strength, so that you can keep on casting Ferocity strike alongside your other abilities. Now that we're done yapping about that, you know, explaining how it works, we're actually going to show you how it works, you know, if you just want to see what's going on and what exactly you're doing. So basically, the main three, you pretty much want to use all of your abilities. Your first ability is used to gain the extra, you know, bonuses to your melee, so melee damage, critical chance, status chance, and critical damage. All of those will be added once you activate your fourth. You activate your second in order to put status effects onto the enemy. You activate your fourth, which should be Thorough Strike. That's what you subsume your fourth as, Thorough Strike. And then after that, you should just be able to easily shred through enemies. Wait, this is not a good display. Just like that, like butter. It is literally so easy to kill enemies, and it scales pretty high. You know, we'll have gameplay at the end of the videos to show you guys, but I also forgot that I'm going to have to show you guys what my melee build is kind of looking like. So I'm using my favorite weapon in the entire game, favorite melee weapon in the entire game, the Prisma Obex, and this is what my build for it is looking like. So yeah, pretty much a lot of critical damage. So this is what it's looking like. It's not a complete build, but it works pretty well. Lastly, we're going to go over our Smita Kavat. This is the companion that I typically use, and the main reason that I use this companion, you know, we have all of these mods, but the main thing that we're looking at is Charm, which is what the Smita Kavat is known for. We also have Tenacious Bond, you know, which gives us that extra bit of critical damage. The Charm gives you more critical chance, and when you're using this entire build and everything, it can get you up to red crits if Charm activates, coupled with, you know, all the other bonuses that are into this ability, into this build rather. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the first build, which is a melee weapon platform build. So pretty cool, you know. And finally, here are the Archon shards. These Archon shards are used for all of the builds. So for this build, that's mainly for the first one, you know, you can change that. So those pretty much the Archon shards that we're using for these builds. Now the second build is mainly for primary weapon platform. So basically, you're going to be using a primary weapon with this build for the most part, and it pretty much buffs a primary weapon. It's the same thing as the last build pretty much, but instead of Thorough Strike, we have Roar. So you have bonus damage that is affected by, you know, ability strength, which we have a decent amount of, alongside survivability, which is fast deflection, fortitude, and vigilante vigor. And we have Prey of Dinar, her augment for first ability, because that will help spread equilibrium, obviously, so that we can get energy and everything. Also projection, so that enemies are weaker. We have Arcane Aegis for survivability, and then last but not least, we have Arcane Avenger, which will give you more critical chance when you get hit by enemies, and you're going to be getting hit by enemies quite a decent amount, which is why we have our survivability, and you can couple it along with her second passive to make it super easy to survive, as long as you're playing smart and you're not just running into a group of enemies blindly. Now for this build, this is what we're looking at. Pretty much what you want to do, you want to activate Roar, and you want to activate this, and then bam, we're doing a crap ton of damage to enemies. The thing about this is this build doesn't even have galvanized aptitude on it, which gives you more damage per status on the enemy. So this could be doing a lot more damage. So this is my Exceltra Prime build. Pretty simple. It's modded for viral, and you know, pretty much all of the simple things. Now, like I said, you can replace one of these mods, probably Heavy Caliber or Galvanized Aptitude, which will result in more damage from a build like this. Now for her third and last but not least build, this is going to be her murder puppy build. This is going to be using all of the abilities. You know, they're all going to mold well together to make a crazy amount of things happen. So we already know the Archon shards are the same, so let's get right into the mods. These are the mods right here. If you're wondering, it's mainly for range, so that status effects can spread, and it has some damage, some strength in there as well. We obviously have Equilibrium and Flow for energy management. We have Prayer of Dinar, so that we get that extra ability range, status effect spreading range. We have Ulfrun's Endurance, which we talked about before. As long as you're killing enemies and they die from bleed within 20 meters of VORUNA while in Ulfrun's Descent, you will regain the charges, so you can infinitely kill enemies in your 4th mode, which you should never have to leave while using this, unless you're like, I don't know, unless you need to kill something with your weapon, like you're in arbitrations or something. Then we have these, which are obviously just for ability strength and range. And then we have Arcane Impetus, which will give you ability efficiency as well as ability strength, and you need that efficiency so you can continually cast abilities. The Prime Flow and Equilibrium obviously also help, so you can keep on constantly casting these abilities. Now we also have Arcane Energize, because this is a high demand on energy build. You are going to need a lot of energy management because you're going to be just spamming abilities. That's pretty much what this is. You're going to be constantly spamming your 1, your 2, and your 4, and your 3 should be constantly sustaining yourself because you're spamming your 2 and your 3 and your 1. So this is exactly what it's going to be looking like. There are no subsumed abilities on this. There is a way to make this build even stronger that I almost forgot about. So basically what you want to do, you want to replace these 2 mods. These are Mecha Empowered, Mecha Pulse, and then we also have our companion, which I didn't get into, but we will get into, which is pretty much a basic companion, basic mods. But there's 2 mods that we want to focus on in particular: Contagious Bond as well as Mecha Recharge, which are going to be on your companion itself as well as on your companion's weapons. Don't worry about how weak my companion's weapons are. I don't really focus on anything like this, but basically the mecha mods add up to a nice total of around 120% or 120 meter spread of effects. Put on screen, I might be wrong about that because I'm just going off to the top of the dome. So like I said, Ulfrun's Descent, first ability, second ability, kill. Then we have status effect spreading incredibly far. See, that isn't even a good representation of how powerful this is. You will see a good representation at the end of the video, show you guys gameplay. But that is just, a little bit of a touch up, a look on what this can do. And that is pretty much all there is for the builds. This was pretty cool. I had fun getting platinum for VORUNA as well as building her. Let me know what you guys think in comments of the builds as well as my fashion. I'll have videos regarding the fashion, shorts and stuff, but let me know what you guys think about the flat fashion. Is it drippy? Are there any changes that need to be made? Think it looks good? But yeah, enough of that. Like and subscribe, and let's get right into the gameplay.